everyone, and welcome to the County Facilities Meeting. We have two agendas here. We'll start with the Department of Public Works. We do have a quorum here today. The first item on the agenda would be a motion to approve the minutes of the committee meeting, the prior committee meeting. Mr. Stroud? Mr. Lowe? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on with the action agenda. Grant application runway 119 extension for the preliminary design. Kevin, is there anything you want to add? I know that's included in the packet. It also talks about the local match, the state match, the federal match. Any questions, discussions around that? Beatty, please.
Chairman, to get on the table.
Okay.
So a second.
I think Mr. Beatty seconded it. Put it on the floor. Okay, thanks.
So this is, we're on number 2, to ratify the actions of Public Works approving change orders for the roof work. So, I don't know which one
I think he actually started,
Yeah.
I believe he started airport first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we doing airport?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've
We're on
got
the airport.
the Public Works agenda, and he's got the airport on it. All right, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. So, why don't we backtrack to the building and grounds? We'll start with the approval of the minutes again, of the building and grounds. We did that? Okay. Okay, item 2 is a request to ratify the action of the superintendent of public works. There's documentation into your packet that references that. Kevin, do you have
I do.
add to that?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was given direction in the beginning of the core project to basically produce a project or come in with a project on time and on budget. We have worked with the contractor out there, and as of today's date, I think approved probably over 40 change orders for the project. Of those change orders there, most of them were small, 300,000, 3,000 type of change orders. We've had a couple larger ones as well. They haven't all been a debit to the project. Some of them have been a credit as well. So with that being said, there were 2 change orders this past fall. One of them was for Castleman Electric, and the other one was for Bunkoff. That involved work with other contractors out there, and that we needed to push these through fairly quick so that it wouldn't stall the project. I ended up signing both change orders and then realized after the fact that I am not allowed to sign change orders more than $10,000. And then it's a cumulative amount up to $50,000, and I have to bring it back to committee. So what I'm asking the committee to do is, number 1, the first resolution is to approve the change orders that I've already approved, and number 2 would be to change the process by which we do these change orders. Typically, it's at $10,000 up to $50,000, and then I have to come back to the board or to the committee. What I'd like to be able to do is do it as 10% of the total contract price. If I had to come back for all the change orders, any amount of change orders, we could on larger projects like this come back, once a week to meet on the change orders that we've done out there. For 3 years of projects, we've had 40+ change orders. So those are the two resolutions on page 2 and then on page 3.
Mr. Leggett?
Chairman. Kevin, overall, the court project came out how? On budget?
We're not complete yet because we're into phase 2. Right now we're actually just under budget with the project, and we're probably almost 3.5 months ahead of time.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm wondering, $10,000, the difference between $10,000 and 10% of the total budget is huge. $16 million budget?
$10.5 million on just phase 1 and 2.
So that would...
Give me $1 million change.
Right, so for, $1 million change. I pose, is that appropriate? Would that negate really the whole process of our approving of any change orders? For you to say, oh, here's $1 million, here's $1 million,
The 10% would be if it was $1 million, I'd be able to approve that. If it was anything above that on that project, I would not be able to approve. I'd come back to committee for that.
Well, true, but $1 million is a lot of money
It is.
versus 10,000. That's quite a leap. And I don't know if that's, if that really fits into addressing our responsibility of keeping an eye on the money.
Mr. Beatty, Sands
Yeah,
is up first.
I agree with Supervisor Lowe. Right now it's 10,000, anything over 10,000 has to have has to be approved by the facilities committee. Making 10% of the project is $1 million change, $800,000 change, I'm not comfortable with all of that. In fact, I'm going to vote no on that resolution. $10,000 may be a little bit of a over-managed maybe. Clark Patterson as engineers, if they do a good job, there's always going to be some changes, but if a good engineering firm is doing their job, and I'm no expert in this, but they should be minimal changes. There should be minimal cost changes. And you've had 40 so far, okay, on this project alone. I think we're paying them a percentage of the total project, correct, Kevin?
Sure.
They get paid a percentage of the total project?
They're getting paid basically a lump sum value for that project. It's not a percentage of the project, no.
They get a lump sum, okay. So I just want to make sure it's clear that they don't have any advantage in doing cost change.
No.
Okay, that's good. But again, 10,000 may be a hair low. You know, you said 20,000. I could live with $20,000, but anything over that, I don't want this to get out of our reach as a facilities committee. So that I would be willing to put a resolution for $20,000. I could live with that because I have a lot of confidence in you. But anything over that, I would.
Mr. Strauss? Don't get to you, Mr.
Yeah, working on some of these construction jobs in the past, it's hard to foresee everything. I mean, it's impossible to foresee everything, and so issues do come up, and you do have to make these change orders. And if a situation occurred, I could easily see where a situation would occur where you, Kevin, can't approve a change order, and it's going to end up costing everybody more because that's something that needed to be done at that minute. If you hold that whole process up, all the workers are standing around waiting for this committee to go ahead and approve it. I can see those situations occurring. We would want to avoid those, but maybe what Supervisor Beatty raising it to 20,000 is would be appropriate.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm just going to echo what Supervisor Strauss said. There are instances where expediency demands some flexibility. So maybe my suggestion is to Kevin is to come back with maybe some alternative that we can work with that gives you the flexibility to make a decision at the moment. But maybe the change order is written in such a way that you still have to come back to the committee if it's over a certain amount, but you can still keep on working. I don't know if that's possible or not, but I think if we're going to talk about $1 million change order, that's not something that's going to be executed in a matter of a couple of weeks. It's going to probably take some time. So I think we just need to be flexible, understanding that Kevin has demands to try to get a project done. We just need to make sure we still have the fiscal controls in place.
Mr. Gardy?
Well, I think our public works contracts are, what, 35,000 now by statute?
They are.
20 and 30, 20 on equipment, 35 on public works contract. Maybe we bump it up to 35,000 max, and then that way we're within what the biddings goes. I mean, that's just a number. I mean, I'm not comfortable going any higher than what the statute is, and if we need to get back together, the onus will be on us to get back together. And, I know it requires 72 hours notice, but we should get back together if it's more. But I could see it raised to 35,000, but...
Any other comments? Kevin?
So currently, the existing resolution allows me to do $10,000 per change order, up to $50,000, and then anything beyond that, I would come back to committee. would you propose the $35,000 and then up to $100,000? And then after that, come back to committee?
I think I'd propose change order up to 35, but a max cap at 70, where you'd have two big ones. But there again, I still think you need to get us back together. If something is going awry, I mean, I'm not big into construction part. That's a lot of money in my book. And I just think we should get back together. I mean, I can give you more latitude, but I still think we should get back together. If it requires calling a special meeting of facilities, so be it. I mean, that's what we need to do. That's our responsibility.
Shouldn't we kind of follow what we do with positions where the chairman of the committee signs off, and so that and then the budget officer would be aware of that? It's just a notification so that all those guys are on the same page, and chairman of the board for something like that. Is that
I
true?
don't know, Matt. I just think 35,000.
No, I mean, I agree with that, but I'm just saying add that layer if you're going to raise them, because
What are we
everybody's
going
on.
to do to him if he signs off? We won't like it. I mean, that's true.
I didn't think of that.
I just think.
Didn't think of that part.
I can go 35, 70, but that gives us more latitude.
It appears that there is some additional discussion that will be required. I don't know if there's a consensus here yet or not to adopt this particular resolution, but I've heard numbers bouncing back and forth, whether it's 35, 50, 20. Is it something that we want to have an additional discussion on to narrow down that number?
I'll make a motion to approve the one that goes along with page 2, and I'll propose a resolution for page 3 of 35 per change order, 70,000 max. I'll propose that as a resolution. Do I need to do it separately?
Does that work?
Boss?
Let's do them
All
separately.
right, I'll do 2. I'll make a motion to approve number 2.
Okay. Is there a second? All in favor?
Now, if we just hear from Kevin, is that truly going to be enough for you, Kevin? Will that satisfy your needs?
It will. I mean, I guess for the time being, I thought that 10% was, well, and I agree. Maybe the $1 million is excessive, and that should be something to come back from committee. I typically don't have change orders. I mean, it was a fluke on this project that I had one for 10,000 or a little over 10,000 and one for 16,000. Typically, that doesn't happen, and this is a large project. It's a $10.5 million project. So I, as of now, I'm comfortable with the 3570.
Well, then, did we pass the first one?
I don't think that was clear. Maybe we should vote on that one, that motion again.
Did we pass it?
We got to vote on
Call for a vote?
it. Yeah, you got to
No, we
vote.
voted.
There's a resolution on the table for ratifying, correct?
I think what's on the table is Mr. Garrity's motion on number 2, on
Yeah, I
page
did
2.
No,
number two.
right.
Well, we had 2 motions.
No, we got to pass the change orders, correct?
No.
Correct.
There was a motion on the table to approve what's on page 2 and 3 together.
No,
but he changed it to 2.
But he broke it.
want to do the one sheet.
Broke it up to do just 2 first.
Yeah, just
So
number
we're
2.
just on
Just the change orders
Did we
first.
vote, Amanda? Did we vote?
You voted, but I don't think it was clear. There was a question
Right.
that came up. So I think
That's
just
number
be
2.
clear, just vote on
Okay,
number
which
2
is the
again.
change orders that he's already authorized.
We haven't done that yet. Just the 2 that we already did.
Yes, those, yes. There was a motion put forward, there was a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you.
Now I'll propose...
The amounts.
Second one, the 35 max per change orders, 35 to 70.
Is there a motion to put that forward, Mr. Simpson? Mr. Stroud, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is request to rescind resolution 601 of...
That was the one we just did.
Okay, we just rescinded it?
601 to change
Okay, we did that. Okay, so we're going to move on to, request for notice of the intent to backfill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a request for 2 requests, actually. The first one is a notice to backfill a position in building maintenance worker that was vacated due to medical reasons. And the second one is a notice of intent to fill cleaner. This is a position that was put in my budget as a half-year position and will be carried through next years as a full-time. And also, we will probably add another cleaner at that time. both of those positions are 100% reimbursable by the court system.
I'll move 6 and 7, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item is a request for a plumbing contract. We typically have an electrical and a plumbing and a mechanical contract for jobs that may come up that our staff can't handle. I don't believe we've ever used the plumbing contract, but there are some issues that could come up in the county that my guys aren't capable of handling. So we like to keep a contract in place just in case. And that page 8 is the low bid, Eckert Mechanical.
Any questions? Motion put down on the floor?
Normally I would make a motion, but I'd actually rather discuss this before that. Because I have a concern about contracting when the possible contracts are close. One of them keeps the money within the region, the other one takes the money out of the region. If it takes the money out of the region, that's a loss for the area, even though the bid itself is less. So I would actually support, although it's a higher bid number, if we have this flexibility, Roselle East, because that's local. Any money we spend is going to stay in the area. Do we have that option?
I think we do, right? Best value? Wouldn't we call that best value if they were local?
Do we know if that was specified in the bid? Did we have best value criteria?
Well, you have the response time.
Either way, it's lowest responsible bidder. So if you can articulate a reason for not going with the lowest bidder, and you have a reason for going with the second lowest bidder, whoever you choose, then you can do that. It's okay.
He didn't bid on it. He didn't bid on it first.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, do we have an idea what the annual total contract would be for something like that, our cost?
It's like, we have not used this particular contract in probably 10 years.
We have no guess then? Could it be, do we expect to spend 10,000, 100,000?
10,000 would be a lot, and that would be a major fail or something. And typically what would come up that my crew couldn't handle would be the cast iron waste lines. Cast iron is kind of a specialty. So if something failed drastically, then we would need a plumber for that. Sometimes we get into gas lines, but I don't anticipate any gas additions in the future.
So we could use any of these rated people for both those applications? So I'm just trying to kind of get a sense of what the difference in value would be overall annually. You know, could we potentially spend $500 more by using a local? $2,000 more? We don't have the gas. That's fine. That's fine.
It would be hard to quantify.
Mr. Simpson?
If you look at the schedule there, I would question whether this is really complete. I would think if we need them, it's emergency situations. And the lowest bidder doesn't have a rate for emergency for everyone. And then down here it says 4 to 6 hours. The other place next to it is 2 hours. And we're only talking, 6 hours difference in hourly rate. I mean, I would think it would be an emergency situation. Yeah, and lower material markup.
Kevin?
As for the rates that are missing under Eckert, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have those on staff and they would use those. They may just use the journeyman electrician as opposed to the apprentices. As far as the response time, they are more with their response time. But again, we put it out as a bid. This is not bid as a best value method. There, we started to move slowly to doing best value method. Best value method doesn't always depend on low price. We base it on a criteria in our bids. Typically it would be their familiarity with our area, their experience with the work, but cost could be a percentage in there, but typically it's not rated as the highest percentage. But that was not done on this, it was based on an hourly rate.
Mr. Stroud?
If the situation was high in the need for materials, then Eckerd might be higher. It depends on the situation. So, you know, Roselle's markup is 10 and 15%, and Eckerd's is 20%, and if the materials were expensive, that may more than make up with the hourly rates that Eckerd appears to be lower. Just saying.
Hey, teacher.
Kramer?
Could reject all of these and go out for best bid.
Best value method.
Less than 20,000, we don't even need a bid.
Personally, I like the recommendation that Supervisor Bramer suggested that we reject these and rebid it with the best value.
This is now public knowledge, though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You also don't need to do an RFP, it's just 3 quotes.
Yeah, we're not going to exceed it. And again, Supervisor Bramer, you're right. If we're not exceeding the $20,000, which is under my authority, then maybe we reject all these bids and I can just do a contract from quotes. But if it does exceed that $20,000, we'll be back here doing a new contract with the plumber. We don't have to go out to bid.
Beatty?
I agree with what everybody's saying. In fact, I think at the end of the day, we really do evaluate this. Probably Roselle is going to be less expensive. His response time to emergency, which most likely would occur, he's only going to charge 2 hours, minimum, where Eckerd's going to charge 4 to 6 hours. So that alone, the price of the markup on the goods, at the end of the day, it probably, although the hourly cost is higher, at the end of the day, this contract from Roselle is probably more cost effective for the county than the other one because of all the other. So my suggestion would be, if we can go forward today and make this, and to me, there's enough there to make it the best value. It's under 20,000, so it doesn't have to be a RFP. I would recommend, I'd make a motion that we go with Roselle. Can we do that, Mary? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion. Can I make that motion?
Sure, I guess Mr. McDivitt would like to add something.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay. So the resolution in front of us today is to award this to Roselle, correct?
If there's no rejections from our staff.
Roselle has had the bid in the past 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so there was a motion put forward, there was a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, the award goes to Roselle. Correct?
He gets a start.
All right, next item are referrals. I'd like to, I'm planning on having a executive session after we've completed the agenda on the airport. So at that point in time, I know Mr. Wild has had some discussions in regards to the D&G negotiations, and I would ask him to report back to the committee along with the negotiating team during an executive session at the end of the airport agenda at that point in time. So if there's anything else that the committee would like to discuss around referrals or pending items, that would be my recommendation to the committee at this point. Okay, court update. Frank?
We are currently probably 60% completed with sheetrocking and the Phase 2 renovations. All of the demolition is done. The columns haven't been removed yet. Their plan is to do that next week. Those are the large columns that, I don't know if you've noticed the large beams going over the new addition. but that'll allow columns within the building to be taken out so that there's structural support there. That'll be done next week. Paving, we're going to shut down half of the west parking lot at a time this week with the idea of paving next week, completion by the end of next week. Contractors are telling me they're on schedule, they're ahead of schedule. They're still planning on being out of here by the fall, so that would be quite a ways ahead of schedule if they can accomplish that. But as always, if anyone would like to take a tour of the building or see what we're doing over there, feel free to get a hold of me and we can walk over at any time.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Morehouse? Okay, now I'll open up privilege of the floor. Mr. Whitehead, I think you had your arm raised.
I did earlier, but you guys all made the right decision tonight.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Where's Don Lehman?
Anybody else from the public who would like to address the board in regards to building and grounds? We'll move right into the airport then, which I tried to advance at the beginning. All right, first item on the agenda is a motion to approve the minutes. We already did that? Okay, thank you. We're going to move back into the discussion on the runway extension preliminary design. I believe there was a resolution put forward on that? Or we had some discussions around that?
Well, we started, I made a motion to
Okay.
approve the
You will-
resolution to apply for the grant.
Okay. Was there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Question? Go ahead.
Is this a completely new thing, Kevin? I mean, I'm pretty sure we already applied for this grant.
Well,
Relating to-
actually, we did not. Last committee, last month, we had brought this same grant application to the committee. You all approved it at that committee, but that's when the conference call with DEC, Army Corps, EPA took place shortly thereafter that, and DEC had, with the push of CNS and the county, pushed to get the hydrology study done up front before any type of decision was made on the EA. So we asked them to redo this, because that was basically going to be final design. This is no longer final design. This is the EA work. There will be, a majority of the final design has to be completed, but this will be the EA work as well as the, what they're calling preliminary design, so that they can make sure that through the hydrology study, there's no effect, or is there effect? I don't know. I'm waiting for that from the study on the Marl Fen or the wetlands out there.
Have you heard anything new from the FAA since the conference?
No.
Waiting for us to-
They're waiting for us to approve this so they can move forward with the grant.
Wow.
Mr. Chairman, thanks you. Kevin, just for clarity, our local match is another $64,000.
The local match for the previous one that I brought last committee was upwards of $75,000, but they've lowered the cost down, so now it's only $64,000.
So it's costing Warren County taxpayers another $64,000 to figure out whether we can expand the runway or not.
This isn't on top of that. This was the design that was there all along. This money was already budgeted for this project.
May I? Will we ever spend any of that money on,
We don't have a grant application to spend any of that money
well,
yet.
on our environmental assessment? What is our cost? Do you know?
I don't. I can get that for you and send it out in email to the committee. But this,
I know we've paid CNS all along too.
that's correct. And this will, since they're going to do the hydrology study now, this will completely change the EA, so the EA will be, I don't want to say starting from scratch, but a lot of it will change.
Well, and that brings me to our speaker review. Probably need to start that all over again.
It will be, and Travis brought the question up to me this morning in an email. That will have to be started. It was only in a draft stage. It was never completed. I think that was a change when Mary may have changed at the county attorney level, as well as Ross making the change. So that was never completed, but it's actually part of this grant application as well.
Any other questions? Mr.
Thank you,
Lowe?
Mr. Chairman. I guess based on what Supervisor Raymer was talking about, both of you were talking about, if with my understanding that we've already started the process for the environmental impact and the hydrology, but your conversation is telling me that anything we've done with environmental impact and hydrology studies was then, and we're starting it all over again? I'm confused about what I just heard. Or did we not start anything and now we're just beginning?
They had started the environmental assessment, but based on, they were going to, whether they were going to issue a FONSI, which is a finding of no significant impact or not, that's what they were working for with the original EA. But with the hydrology study, if something changes and says that there is a significant impact, that's why the EA will change. They're doing the hydrology study up front where before they were not. So if they issued the decision of a FONSI, it was done without knowing what the hydrology study produced.
Okay.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you again. Kevin, this is by no means a statement against you and your staff, but as some time ago, being involved with the consultancy, I was responsible for oversights, right? I'm wondering if CNS, who we hired to guide us through this process, shouldn't be liable for some of this oversight, that we have to go backwards and redo some of the environmental impact assessment that was done prior. And my just sense, as if they're a consultancy and I had a customer that came back to me and said, you screwed up, that would have been something we'd have to eat. You know, excuse my frankness, but it is something that I wonder if we can go back to CNS and say, we paid you to guide us through this process. This didn't happen. It's time to think about fees and restructuring fees.
Yeah, and Supervisor Wild, I'm not sure that you can get, I'm not saying you couldn't get anything out of CNS for this. The bottom line, this is not really on CNS. It's DEC has pushed FAA enough to not go forward with the EA that they currently had, and that they're the ones that wanted to make this change. Now this will be covered again under the grant, but I can't necessarily say this is all on CNS. It's decisions that DEC pushed FAA to make, and FAA has really moved it in this direction.
And, you know, if you don't mind, that was the basis of my original question. I assume we've done some of this before, and it's another $64,000.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve that resolution? Is there a second?
We already had a motion.
There was a motion.
on the floor.
It's done?
We already had a motion.
So they approved it? Okay. So we move on. So the resolution to extend the additional work was approved? Is that what you said, Amanda? Okay. So we're moving off that onto the next grant application. There's an application in your packet to apply for a grant for the airfield maintenance equipment. Appears that their old equipment is 31 years old. I don't know much about the grant. I'll turn that over to Kevin. This is the first I've heard today in regards for this request of $640,000. I'm not sure if anybody else is aware of that, but certainly I don't have any more information other than what was put in front of us today in regards to this proposal or recommendation. So if you have any questions, this is the first I've heard of the application.
Yeah, just, how much are we spending on maintenance on this drilling? The old room, how much are we spending?
Probably anywhere in the range is probably $3,000 to $5,000 a year. And they're finding it a hard time to get parts for this piece of equipment anymore, being 31 years old.
Is this grant a, what's the county's responsibility for on the grant?
10% of the grant will be the county's responsibility. It's a DOT grant. It's a 90-10. We're to cover the 10% of it. Again, this is a 31-year-old piece of equipment that's probably exceeded its life expectancy, 10 to 12 years ago. It's one that, this is a little bit different. This one's not going to be just a broom to sweep the runway or the taxiways. This will also be used as snow plowing equipment as well. I had talked with Ross as well as a little bit with Don Draw on these New York State DOT grants and what would be the next item that would be needed at the airport based on equipment-wise, and this is the proposal that they had come up with.
Ms. Bramer?
What's the cost of a replacement?
Probably in the range of about $300,000 to $400,000.
Like half, less than half.
About half. But this piece of equipment will be used for both snow plowing and sweeping.
But don't we have,
We do have snow plow equipment out there.
like new,
We have one new truck.
Is there monies appropriated in the budget for this?
It would be put into the budget. This is just applying for the grant.
Okay.
We don't have to go forward with money yet. We haven't received the grant yet.
What would be the timetable on that?
Probably in October, we should have a decision of whether or not we'll be getting the grant.
So that'll be after the budget process. Okay. Mr. Loeb?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amount that we're spending on maintenance is pretty small compared to the actual cost of a new vehicle. Although you could say you can't really predict that. In fact, we could spend $5,000 a year. That this is going to cost us $5,000 a year for the next 10 years. That could very well go up. The statement that it's hard to get parts, I say, so what? It's either you can get parts or you can't get parts. So to me, it would be, if it was coming out of my money, and I guess we're representing the taxpayers, so it is, that would be nice to have a new vehicle, but not something that's going to stop us from running a top-notch operation at the airport.
The only thing I'd add, is there any harm in applying for the grant? We don't have to, we choose not to fund it, we can choose not to accept the grant, but we're not in the game if we don't apply for the grant.
I would make a motion that we apply for the grant.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay.
Well, that's a good point right there.
Next item on the agenda is to amend Resolution 671 of 2015, associated increases. Oh, that's,
Dan Vincentelli Law Firm. I believe Dan is here. Last month I had brought this to committee and there were some questions on the amount of money that was being spent for the EDPL hearing that Dan and his firm had worked on. So I had asked Dan to come in and talk to the committee about basically his invoice. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dan Vincelette Law Firm. To bring the board up to date, we had a trial last month, April 11th and 12th, before Judge Mueller right here in the courthouse. This is regarding an 80-acre parcel that joins the airport. The county commenced an eminent domain proceeding in which 4 acres of the 80-acre parcel were taken in eminent domain, and the remainder of the parcel was burdened with an navigation easement that allows the county to go in and basically clear trees or structures that are over a certain height in order to comply with safety regulations. As part of that eminent domain, whenever you have a taking of land, the owner of the property is entitled to fair compensation. The county paid them $320,000 for the 4 acres and the navigation easement. They made a claim against the county saying that wasn't sufficient. So the whole gist of our trial was they claimed they're entitled to $2.5 million for what was taken. Our expert, we had Todd Thurston of Syracuse, took a look at it, and his determination was the county has already overpaid for it. He came in at about $280,000. So we had a 2-day trial with the respective experts in front of Judge Mueller. Our invoices reflect both our law firm invoice for the trial prep, the 2 days of trial, for any conferences or whatever that are related to that. My firm also advanced money to pay Mr. Thurston's bill for his prep and his trial work, and I also paid about $900 for the trial transcript on behalf of the county. So the invoice that the board has, I believe it's approximately, it's about $15,700, Half of that is money that my firm has advanced on behalf of the county for experts and for the trial transcript. I anticipate going forward, at this point we have the trial transcript. Our submissions are due to the court by July 23rd. Worst case scenario, you see 10 more hours of time being spent, attorney time, to prepare the post-trial memorandum submitted to Judge Mueller, any other incidental conferences or whatever. At that point, it's just a matter of waiting for the court to issue its decision.
At this point in time, I'd open up the committee members an opportunity to ask any questions if they have that. Ms. Kramer?
I'm a committee member, but thank you very much, Chairman. My understanding from the resolution that we passed was that the amount was up to a certain amount, dollar amount. Was that your understanding as well?
That's my understanding. I'm the second law firm in this. Bob Height originally represented the county, I believe, in 2015 or so. So we took over the matter. I believe there was a resolution. I haven't seen it, but I believe it was approved up to a certain amount.
And this is another $15,000 over that amount.
I don't know what the original amount is, but the bill is what it is.
So that's why we were concerned, thinking that this was some expenditures that we did not expect went over the initial cap. And no one came back to us and said, hey, we're going to trial, we need more money, we need money for paying out to our expert and whatnot.
Okay. I apprised the county attorney in January. She asked for an update for the Board of Supervisors. I gave her a spreadsheet. I gave her a full memorandum at what was at stake as far as the dollars and cents to the county. So, I don't know. All I know is I communicated to the county attorney in January and March what we were spending, what we anticipated, and what we were doing on behalf of the county.
As I told the committee last month, we have enough money in this project to cover the cost to the Vincelotti Law Firm.
Mr. Beatty?
Yeah, I recall that it said not to, contract, say, I think, I don't know, 30,000, whatever, not to exceed that amount. And so, I'm sure you can appreciate, sir, you come back and the second guy answer, you're the third guy in, but come back and we think not to exceed a certain dollar amount, and it's in there in the contract, and then we get hit with another bill of 15,000 plus. You just said it's going to be 10 more hours. I think you bill out at 190 an hour.
I think it's 250.
250 an hour. So now you're looking at 10 hours times, it's 2,500 more. So now we're looking at just under 16, about 18.3. So, nothing against you, sir. But I got a problem when we do a contract and we say not to exceed, and now we're adding 50-60% more. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'll probably say no.
You can't.
My question is,
Ready?
I would say that this money is well spent. I'd much rather pay this than pay $2.5 million for this property.
I wish the original contract then.
Well, if you switch firms in the middle, are we switching firms? Did we switch firms? What happened?
We did switch firms. Originally, it was Bob Height, and I
What part
think,
of we switch firms? The DPW?
I believe it was done on a facilities committee.
So we switched firms, and their cost is more. I think we have an obligation. He's done the work. So, I'd much rather win the case than spend $2.5 million.
Mr. Wild?
Yeah, my question is for Mary. Mary, I'm just curious, what's your opinion on this? Was it a not-to-exceed contract? Did we change things when we switched?
I don't know, I'd have to go back and review. I didn't even know this was an issue. I wasn't here at the last committee meeting. I can certainly go back and look at it. I don't believe there's a contract, though. Is there?
I'll have to check. I believe I do.
There was a resolution that was passed.
I know there was a resolution. I don't know. I would have to look.
Was this done last year?
2015.
2015, several years ago.
No,
No,
it's 2018.
No, that's what I say, it's not his gentleman, so he's trying to protect us.
Mr. McDevitt, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we go forward with the good attorney's recommendation. I think he's communicated with Mary based on his indication, and I don't know what more you can do. I would agree with Kevin that the
kind of conclusion in the court is that the county has overpaid the individual involved. So the differential between what someone stated and what the actual conclusion is based on the testimony of the expert, there probably are dollar savings there if Judge Mueller ultimately comes down to that conclusion. But the bottom line is it appears as if he has clearly communicated with our counsel, and seems as if we have an agreement based on that.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank
No,
you.
can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Sure. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Garrity? Mr. Stroud? And I'll vote yes, but I'd like to add into the minutes of the meeting that it appears that, the county was in error not bringing this issue to the full board once we exceeded that cap, that there was a communication errors. I don't believe it's the responsibility of the firm that was hired to do that, but I believe that we were in error, that this committee was not informed that we exceeded that cap that was proposed at that point in time. Mr. Sokol?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this, what's the dollar amount that we approved? Because are we including the extra 10 hours that he's going to bill us for?
Yes.
That goes part of the resolution? Okay.
It's just a general comment, Mr. Chairman.
Up to.
It's just another example of our mishandling of contracts. And we need to really kind of focus as a board and team to kind of get our arms around all of this. It hurts us from time to time. Not to say that this one is, but we really do need to put some added emphasis on that.
Can't disagree with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on with the, thank you so much. The next item, I'm asking at this point in time that we move into an executive sessions to discuss or get a briefing from our negotiating team in regards to the proposal with Rich Air. I don't anticipate at this point in time that we will take any action in regards to that, but I also would like to include some discussions by Mr. Wild in regards to the existing contract we have D&G. So, okay, sure. Yeah, yes. That way you don't have to hang around.
No, the only comment I'd like to make is Supervisor Wild brought up a point about responsibility. He didn't go near far enough to go ahead and tell you what CNS has done to you over the years, but there are other firms out there, and I'm not saying you can recover anything from them, but you really ought to consider, M&J, for instance, they do a lot of work in the area, they've done a lot of work, and even here, more on environmental things. And there was a hearing about 2 years ago, took a lot of effort for everybody to get through that hearing. At the end of the hearing, it turns out that they never advertised the hearing, and therefore it had to be wiped off the table. They should have been taken to task for that one. There's one rope after the other, and it's very easy for me to challenge their EAs afterwards. You would do yourself a favor if you look for a different firm than TNS Engineers, it's my opinion. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay. I did put a motion forth, and did we get a resolution to go in executive sessions? Is there a motion to go in executive sessions? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. John, if